Hi, Rockin' readers. Today we are going to read part 1 of Ellie Ultra, and this is Super Fluffy to the Rescue by Gina Bellisario. And this is illustrated by Jessica Von Innerebner. Okay, here we go. We're going to read chapters 1 through 5 today. Chapter 1, Saturdoom. It was just another day in the city of Winkopolis. Kitties mewed, birds chirped, joggers jogged. Everyone was doing the same old ordinary things. Everyone, mind you, but the girl who lived at 8 Louise Lane. The girl was Ellie Ultra. She was playing Go Fish, a very ordinary card game, but she was picking cards faster than a racehorse on turbocharged roller skates. It was extraordinary. Woohoo! I won! Ellie cheered. Rocket fast, she whipped down 1, then 2, then 3 pairs of cards. Her hands were empty in a flash. Beat you again, Cyclops. Cyclops, the Ultra's giant one-eyed iguana, looked mad. Oh, check him out. Probably because he'd also lost at Crazy 8's and Old Maid. He snatched his Lizard's Life magazine, slunk off the chair, and disappeared. Ellie slumped in her seat. The iguana wasn't much competition, but at least he was someone to play with. All of Ellie's non-lizard friends were busy, and she was bored with a capital B. After Ellie put away the cards, her chin fell into her hand. Saturday? More like Saturdoom, she said sadly. I'm doomed to spend the whole day alone. More than bored, Ellie was lonely. Being a superhero, she had faced the world's worst villains, including Captain Blob and the Goo Crew, and Queen Bee. But loneliness, it was the worst. Loneliness blurred Ellie's X-ray vision. It turned her super strength into cooked spaghetti, and she couldn't even fly. Loneliness made her sink like a stone in a tub of toxic waste. I wouldn't be lonely if I had a sidekick, Ellie muttered. Then it hit her. Wait a super second! She glanced at her watch. All was not lost. It was 3 o'clock, which meant that Hannah, Ellie's better than a sidekick best friend, would be done with dance class. Ellie knew she was powerless to beat loneliness all by her lonesome, but if she teamed up with Hannah, she could sock that feeling with a 1-2 punch. Crossing her fingers, Ellie dialed Hannah's number. Hopefully, Hannah could help save the day. Hello? Hannah answered. Hi, Ellie squealed. Do you want to come over? I can teach you how to play Guess That Supervillain. It's the best game ever. Hannah sighed loudly. Uh-oh, it sounded like Super Bestie was in trouble. I wish I could, she replied, but I'm stuck helping my mom. It's for Cece. Now it was Ellie's turn to sigh. Cece was Hannah's little sister. Sometimes Hannah had to do things for her, like carry her backpack or tie her shoes. What do you have to do? Ellie asked. Her birthday party's tomorrow. It's at our house, so my mom wants help setting everything up. Ellie's heart sank. Hannah's mom had unleashed the terrible forces of choredom. Even Ellie was powerless to stop them. That stinks, she said. I know, Hannah agreed. It's a princess party, so my mom's going crown cuckoo. She's turning our backyard into tiara land. We'll have games, fancy finger sandwiches, and even a bouncy castle. I have to glue gems on the crown party favors. Hannah sighed again, louder this time. Hey, if you're not fighting supervillains, why don't you come to the party? You can help with the dragon piñata. Ellie was a super fan of princesses, especially Princess Power, the comic book superhero of Sparkle Kingdom, but she would rather face Princess Power's archenemy, the Troll King, than pint-sized candy fiends. I'll have to wait and see, she said. You never know when a supervillain might strike. Okay, Hannah replied. Well, I better get started on those crowns. Hope to see you tomorrow. Bye. Bye. Ellie hung up the phone, and she felt a little sorry for Hannah. Loneliness you could fight, but chores, never. With Hannah unable to play, all hope seemed lost. It reminded Ellie of the time she'd been caught by Bubble Trouble. That villain had used his gum ray with extra chewy power to snag her. Luckily, she had a trick up her cape, peanut butter. After unsticking her curls, Ellie had nabbed him instead. She'd had her parents to thank for getting her out of that sticky situation. Maybe they could lift her lonely spirits. Ellie raced downstairs to the underground lab. Mom and Dad had been there since early that morning working on a big project. They were super genius scientists for BRAIN, a supervillain fighting group. That meant they spent a lot of time working on big projects. Whoa, Ellie exclaimed. She skidded to a stop at the doorway. Looking up, her eyes grew huge. She was standing inside a huge shadow. Mom and Dad's new project wasn't just big, it was giant. A robot towered overhead. It had a large round tummy and oversized arms and legs. It also had a spotlight for eyes. ears that looked like satellite dishes stuck out of its enormous head. It sort of looked like an overstuffed teddy bear without the fluff. Just then, Dad stepped out from behind the robot's leg. What do you think of our latest invention? Super, huh? Ellie surveyed the huge hunk of metal. Mom and Dad had made a lot of extraordinary stuff in the past. There was the Ultra TV, which showed Ellie's favorite shows in the galaxy. And how about the Ultra Sponge? It could soak up Ellie's biggest spills. Their inventions came in all kinds of shapes and sizes, but none of them were this supersized. Why is the robot so big? Ellie asked. I can answer that. Mom popped out of the robot's head. She was holding a screwdriver. I wonder if the robot has a screw loose, Ellie thought with a giggle. Supervillains can be tricky to catch, Mom said. Different tools might be needed for the job. So Dad and I put all those tools into one invention. Meet the ultimate villain catching machine, the Ultra Giant. Ellie x-rayed the Ultra Giant's body. Inside were the usual things for catching supervillains. A catcher's mitt, a lasso, a vacuum cleaner, an anteater, and a Venus flytrap. But there were also unusual things, like a book of riddles, a too-tight sweater, catnip, and a bottle of fast-drying superglue. What's this tool for? Ellie asked. She pointed to the large net in the giant's hand. Can you see him? It's a fishing net, Dad answered. It can catch villains like Fishface and the Big Katuna, but it can also snag villains on land. He turned the giant's head around and pointed 2 big circles. The giant has eyes on the back of its head, too. That way no villain can hide. They're called See Everything Eyes, S-E-E for short. Ellie was super excited. The Ultra Giant could do lots of things, enough to keep her busy all day. Can you show me how it works? She asked eagerly. I can pretend to be a villain. How about the cookie crook? Imitating the thief, Ellie snuck behind the giant and snatched an apple off Mom's desk. The giant's S-E-E spotted her, but it didn't move one metal muscle. Sorry, honey, Dad answered. He took the apple from Ellie. The Ultra Giant isn't working yet. To finish such a big invention, we'll need more time. Ellie was disappointed. Even the Ultra Giant couldn't save her from Saturdoom, but maybe her parents could still help. Do you want to take a break and play? She asked. Hannah can't come over and I'm super lonely. Not right now, Dad said gently. Aw, but you've been working the whole day, Ellie complained. Mom climbed down. Count me in for a game later. First, I need to untangle some robot insides. She popped the giant's stomach like a trunk. Out fell a mishmash of mixed up wires. You can help if you want. That sounded as fun as fighting alien blobs again. Nah, Ellie replied. I know, Mom said. While you wait, you can clean your room. No! That was worse than Ellie could have imagined. Her mom was unleashing the forces of chordom on her. Do I have to? Ellie asked with a groan. Mom nodded. If I didn't know better, I'd say your room had been hit by a torpedo, but there's a way to make the job easier. She pointed to a flashlight-looking gadget on her desk. Use the Ultra Animator. Ellie picked up the Ultra Animator. It was an older invention, so she already knew how it worked. It had 2 switches, animate and reverse. By aiming it at something and flipping the switch to animate, she could bring that object to life. By switching it to reverse, she could make the object normal again. But if I have to clean my room, at least I can make my stuff put itself away, Ellie thought. Dragging her feet, Ellie trudged out the door. When you're ready to play, you can find me upstairs, she called to her parents. Just look for the loneliest super kid in the world. Chapter 2, Rough. In her room, Ellie held out the Ultra Animator. Then she stared down the piles of clothes, comic books, and other clutter. All right, Chordom, she said. You might think I, Ellie Ultra, am no match for a messy room, but I'll prove I'm the queen of clean. Click! Ellie flipped the animator switch to animate. Out blasted a green ray, and it fired on a pair of pajama pants. The pants sat upright, twitched, and turned, and then they went skipping off her bed. When the pants hopped into Ellie's laundry basket, she switched the animator to reverse. She zapped them with a red ray, and they stopped moving. With the Ultra Animator, cleaning is a snap, she said, or I should say, a zap. Ellie took aim at the rest of the mess. She animated her Butterfly Girl action figure. It went fluttering back into her toy chest. She animated her piggy bank, and it wiggled across the floor and hopped onto her bookshelf. Aiming the Ultra Animator at her desk, Ellie zapped her entire collection of Cupcake Friends pencil toppers. Then she opened the desk drawer. In went vanilla, sprinkles, red velvet, and carrot cake. In you go, cookies and cream, Ellie said as the last one hopped in. She hit reverse and gave them a blast with a ray. Then she pushed the door closed. There's all her Cupcake Friends she's putting away. After a few more blasts, the room was spotless. Ellie flopped down on her bed to read. She might have defeated her chores, but she still had to get through the lonely hours of Saturdoom. Escaping into a comic book seemed the only way. Now where is Princess Power, protector of Sparkle Kingdom, Tiara of Truth? Ellie muttered. She looked for her comic under her blanket. It had been there before she started playing cards. Checking behind her pillow, Ellie spotted her stuffed dog. Super Fluffy, she gasped. She swept him up and smoothed his shaggy mop of white hair. If ever there was a super companion, it was Super Fluffy. He'd been at Ellie's side since she was a baby. He joined Ellie when she took her first steps and flew out of her crib. He'd helped Ellie fight her first villain, a bad dream. And when Ellie had saved her school on her first day, Super Fluffy had been at the celebration, along with Mom, Dad, and the mayor and citizens of Winkopolis. Ellie looked into the stuffed dog's big, round eyes. I wish you were real, she said as she stared back blankly. If you could play, I'd never be lonely. Suddenly, pow! A super idea struck Ellie's brain. She could use the Ultra Animator to bring Super Fluffy to life. It had worked on everything else in her room. After clearing a spot on her bed, Ellie plunked down her furry target. Here it goes, she said. She took aim with the Ultra Animator. Holding her breath, she flicked the switch to animate. Zap! A burst of green hit Super Fluffy square on the nose. The room was silent. Ellie listened closely, waiting for him to speak. For a long moment, her super ears picked up only the sound of an ant crawling behind the bookshelf until... Next thing Ellie knew, she was getting drenched in doggy drool. Super Fluffy, she cheered as she covered her ears in wet kisses. You're alive! With a lively pounce, Super Fluffy leaped to the floor. He stuck out his paws and stretched a long waking up stretch. Then he went sniffing around the room. Ellie double blinked. She couldn't believe her eyes. Her stuffed with fluff animal was a dog, a tail-stretching, room-sniffing, face-licking dog. Look, there he is. He's purple. Look how cute. Super Fluffy sneezed at some scented markers. When he got to Ellie's backpack, he dug his nose into the pocket. Then he pulled out a tennis ball and trotted over and dropped the ball at Ellie's feet. Ellie picked up the ball curiously. Are you trying to tell me something? She asked. Super Fluffy wagged his tail with excitement. Ellie wondered what he wanted to say. Usually she used her brain power to read somebody's mind, but that trick didn't work on animals. It looked like she'd have to use another super skill and guess. Does the evil supervillain Finders Keepers want a tennis ball for his collection? She asked. Finders Keepers was famous for snatching things around Winkopolis. He added them to his Mine All Mine gallery. Super Fluffy's tail drooped. Okay, wrong guess. Let me try again, Ellie thought hard. Her eyebrows squeezed together and then shut up. Oh no! Is the ball really a spaceship made from planet Sphere? I hope it's not here to invade Winkopolis. Super Fluffy's ears flattened and he let out a whimper. Ellie bit her lip. The ball wasn't a villain's prized collectible or a UIO, unidentified invading object. Then what was Super Fluffy trying to tell her? Super Fluffy jumped up and snatched the ball out of Ellie's hand. He tossed it into the air and chased after it as it bounced across the floor. He sure is in a playful mood, Ellie thought. Oh, I know, she suddenly realized. You want to play, am I right? Ruff! Super Fluffy snapped up the ball and wagged his tail happily. Ellie left the animator on her bed and flew to the door. That's exactly what I wanted to do, she said. Super minds think alike. Chapter 3, Smarty Paws. The screen door banged shut as Ellie, followed by her four-legged friend, bounded into the backyard. Her cape rippling in the wind, she breathed in the day. Squirrels chittered in the treetops. Birds glided from branch to branch. A breeze sailed coolly through the warm sunshine. It was perfect for having fun with somebody, and who better than Super Fluffy? Thanks to him, Ellie could say so long to Saturdoom. Saturday was Satur play. Let's play fetch, Ellie exclaimed. I'll throw the ball, then you catch it and bring it back to me, understood? Ruff! Super Fluffy answered. Ellie's arm swung back, and she lobbed the ball across the yard. Quicker than a dog could scratch a flea, Super Fluffy snapped up the ball, dropped it at Ellie's feet, and waited patiently for the next throw. Ellie threw the ball a few more times, and each time Super Fluffy brought it back lickety-splickety. Wow, you're good at this game, Ellie said. I'm going to throw extra hard this time, so watch carefully. Her arm whirled around like a Ferris wheel and sent the ball soaring. It tore through the air, startling a flock of pigeons. After kissing a cloud, it fell on the rooftop and rolled into the gutter. Super Fluffy was already sitting attentively at the downspout. When the ball shot out, he caught it and trotted back to Ellie. What a super smart dog, Ellie thought as Super Fluffy sniffed a caterpillar. He knew exactly where the ball would end up. Ellie gave the pup's ears a friendly scratch. If you can fetch, I bet you can do other things. How about we find out? Super Fluffy agreed. Let's start with some easy tricks, Ellie said. Sit. Super Fluffy was already sitting. Shake hands. Super Fluffy lifted his paw and Ellie shook it kindly. Beg. Super Fluffy whimpered. He looked up at Ellie with the sweetest pair of puppy dog eyes. Oh, look at him. She'd ever seen. Adorable, Ellie cried. How could anybody say no to that face? It looked like those tricks were too easy. Flexing her brain power, Ellie came up with some trickier things. Can you walk on two legs? On his hind legs, Super Fluffy marched forward, then backward. Speak? Ruff! Super Fluffy barked. Ellie guessed that meant hello. Close enough. Okay, Smarty Pants, she said, rubbing her hands together. She was going to give him the trickiest trick of all. Can you pat your head and rub your tummy and stick out your tongue at the same time? With his tongue hanging out, Super Fluffy patted his head with one paw and rubbed his tummy with the other. He learned that trick lickety-split. Ellie's jaw dropped as the dog bowed. Not even Mom and Dad could do that, and they could make a spotted zebra. Super Fluffy amazed Ellie with some more tricks. Then they went back to playing fetch, which he was expert at. After Super Fluffy had retrieved the ball with his eyes closed, Ellie heard a scuffling sound. Suddenly, a voice yelled, "Help!" Ellie immediately shot into the air and surveyed the neighborhood. Outside Hole-in-One Donut Shop, a lady was waving wildly. "My purse! My purse!" she cried. "That thief stole my purse!" She pointed down the street where a man was running away with a yellow bag. Holy glazed donut, Ellie thought. Someone needed her help. Faster than you could eat a Long John, Ellie sprang into action. She soared to the top of the shop and plucked off the giant donut-shaped sign. Flying up from behind the thief, Ellie threw down the sign. "Gotcha," she said, catching him in the middle. He wiggled and squiggled, but the donut hole held him tight. With the thief in the donut's clutches, Ellie reached for the lady's purse. But it was gone. "It was here a minute ago," Ellie muttered. She looked around on the sidewalk. Woof! At Ellie's side, Super Fluffy held up the purse. Without a second glance, he raced over and returned it to the lady. Ellie was wowed. That dog was super great at a lot of things, but fetching topped them all. Chapter 4, Doomsday. After the two heroes had dropped off the thief at the police station and brought the sign back to the donut shop, they returned home. Ellie sat on her bed, munching on a donut. Playing had made her tired. Well, that and saving the day. "Time for a CBB," Ellie said, "a comic book break." She grabbed Ice Boy's Day of Doom. On the cover, her favorite Frozen hero battled Doomsday, the trickiest villain in the entire comic book universe. Doomsday, like any villain, had a no-good mission. He wanted to fill the day with doom and gloom. To do that, he played downright dirty tricks. He signed each trick with a frown that matched the ones on his frowny-faced suit. "Poor Ice Boy," Ellie said, scanning the pages. "First, Doomsday turns off his alarm clock. Next, he draws frowns all over Ice Boy's homework. And then he ties Ice Boy's shoelaces into a big knot. Untying a knot is impossible, super strength or no super strength." Ellie kept reading. Ice Boy caught Doomsday in the end, but he decided to let him go after Doomsday promised to fix everything. Sure enough, Doomsday's promise was a trick, and that villain got away. All of a sudden, something tugged on Ellie's cape. She peeked over her comic. Super Fluffy was holding Queen Bee's broken scepter. Queen Bee had used the scepter to rule Ellie's school, at least until Ellie's muscle power had snapped it in two. The puppy bounced around Ellie, nudging her with his nose and wagging his happy tail. "You want to play, don't you?" Ellie asked with a giggle. "How about we make a deal? I'll play fetch, but only if I can read and relax too. Can we shake on that?" Super Fluffy tilted his head thoughtfully. After a moment, he lifted his paw and shook Ellie's hand in agreement. Lounging behind her comic book, Ellie threw the scepter across the room. Super Fluffy brought it back and waited to fetch all over again. Throw, fetch, throw, fetch. Fetching never seemed to get old for Super Fluffy. On the fourth throw, the scepter landed in a heap of stuffed animals. Super Fluffy flew into the heap. Seconds later, he burst out triumphantly. With a terrific leap, he pounced onto Ellie's bed, landing on the animator. Click! The switch flipped to animate. Oh no! Ellie looked up just in time to see green animation particles heading straight for her. "Eek!" she shrieked. Quicker than the Grim Sweeper's broom, she swept up the comic book and ducked. The green ray struck Doomsday's picture. Ellie's heart started beating super fast. At any moment, Doomsday would step off the cover on a mission to spread gloom throughout Winkopolis. His pranks would wipe everyone's smiles clean off. "I'll stop that," Ellie thought. She grabbed the Ultra Animator and pointed it directly at the supervillain's picture. Any sign of villainous life, a stuck-out tongue, 2 thumbs down, the stink eye, and she would blast him with the anti-animating ray. but nothing happened. Ellie waited and waited, but still nothing. That's weird, she said. Doomsday should have come alive by now. Ellie eyeballed the Ultra Animator. Maybe the animator's run out of juice. Super Fluffy hid under Ellie's blanket. He wasn't so sure Ellie was right. Just then there was a knock at the bedroom door. Ellie? Ellie almost shot through the ceiling. The possibility of unleashing a comic book supervillain made her jumpy. Thankfully, it was only Mom. Dad and I need some things from the Ultra Giant, Mom called through the door. We're going to the hardware horse. Do you want to come along? The hardware horse was a huge tool store that had every kind of bolt and nail, so it was Mom and Dad's go-to place for gadget parts. Ellie liked going to play Spot Hardy. Hardy was a plush horse that was hidden somewhere in the store. If you found Hardy, you got a prize. Sure, Ellie replied. This time I won't use my x-ray vision to spot Hardy. Promise. Great, Mom said. Come downstairs when you're ready. As Mom's footsteps faded down the hallway, Ellie's nerves settled. Doomsday was still on the comic book cover, Winkopolis as she knew it wasn't toast. Ellie kneeled down beside Super Fluffy, who was trembling under the covers. It's all right, Fluffy, she said. You don't need to worry about that supervillain. Just stay put until I'm back and be a good dog, okay? Super Fluffy whimpered. Before leaving her room, Ellie grabbed the Ultra Animator. I better put the animator away. Don't want any trouble while I'm gone. Chapter 5, An Ultra Mess. Lug nuts, wing nuts, eye bolts, hook bolts, pile drivers, screwdrivers. At the hardware horse, Ellie listened as her parents went gaga over gadget stuff. No doubt about it, the hardware store was a super genius giant's paradise. Finding things for the Ultra Giant was fun for Mom and Dad, but spotting Harvey, the store's plush horse, was way more fun. Ellie always got a different prize. Last week, it had been a stick-on mustache. The week before that, it had been a twisty straw. But today, Ellie wasn't so lucky. It was time to check out, and she still hadn't been seen Hardy anywhere. Did you find everything you need? The cashier asked as Ellie peeked behind the magazine rack. Nothing. I didn't see, Ellie looked up at the cashier. Hardy! The horse was sticking out of the cashier's apron. Here's your prize. The cashier handed over a small, squishy soccer ball. It looked like a perfect toy for playing fetch. I know who will love this, Ellie thought. Super Fetcher. When they got back home, Ellie helped bring everything inside, burrowed like the mad gopher through some wing nuts, and pulled out her prize soccer ball. She couldn't wait to show Super Fluffy. No doubt she'd be in for another lick fest. All of a sudden, her stomach rumbled like thunder. Dinner will be ready soon, Mom said. I'm using the Ultra Meal-O-Matic. Cooks meals in 3 minutes, guaranteed. Thanks, Mom, Ellie said. She raced upstairs, opened her bedroom door, and nearly toppled over. There was no tail wagging, no drooling doggy face. There was only her room, which once the capital of clean was now Messville, USA. Clothes were piled high and turned inside out. On the wall, artwork was hanging this way, that way, and the other way. And every single one of Ellie's cupcake friend's pencil toppers, which she'd carefully stowed in her desk, lay scattered across the floor. Ellie plucked the caramel apple topper off her rug. Even an atomic tornado couldn't make this mess. What happened? Woof! Super Fluffy barked on Ellie's bed. Scattered around him was Ice Boy's Day of Doom, ripped into pieces. He picked up part of the cover and jumped up and down. My comic book, Ellie cried. It looked like it survived an attack from a ninja or a shark or a ninja shark. Super Fluffy must have gotten bored while she was away. He turned her room into his very own pooch playground. Look at what you've done, Ellie said with a frown. This place is messier than a pigsty. It's even worse than Hog's Breast's lair, and that villain's a real pig. How am I going to clean everything up? Super Fluffy looked at Ellie sadly and dropped the shredded paper. With his tail between his legs, he retreated under Ellie's blanket. Ellie sighed. Super Fluffy knew a lot of tricks, but he needed to learn one more, how to behave. Just then the door opened. Dinner's ready. Mom stopped short at the sight of Ellie's room. This is a nuclear disaster. Uh-oh, Mom was talking like a scientist. That only happened when she was doing an experiment or if she was mad. I can explain, Ellie started to say, but Mom shook her head and held up her hand. I'm not listening to any explanation right now. I asked you to clean up and you didn't. In fact, your room is messier than before. After you've picked up everything, come down and eat. She marched out and pulled the door closed. Ellie felt a knot in her stomach as big as the one in Ice Boy's shoelaces. Mom thought Ellie, superhero crime fighter and all-around good kid, had created an ultra mess. As the knot in Ellie's stomach tightened, Super Fluffy poked his nose out of the blanket. He jumped down and walked over to the topsy-turvy pictures on Ellie's wall. Reaching up, he nudged a picture, straightening it out. He straightened another picture and then another. Super Fluffy was cleaning up. Maybe he was trying to say sorry, and if that was the case, how could Ellie stay mad? Do you want to help me clean? She asked. Together we can get the job done in no time. Ruff! Super Fluffy agreed. The duo got to work. They fixed the rest of Ellie's pictures. They turned her clothes right side out and put them back into her closet. Next, Ellie got her wastebasket, and Super Fluffy dropped the pieces of her comic book inside. She didn't want to throw away her comic, but even the Ultra Puzzle Solver couldn't put all those pieces back together. At last, they gathered her cupcake friends' pencil toppers. As Ellie dropped them into her drawer, she realized something. "I'm missing one," she said, counting her collection. "Where's Pumpkin?" Super Fluffy threw his nose into the air and sniffed around. A moment later, he shot off like a boomerang, flying in and out of her closet. Ellie held out her hand, and Super Fluffy placed the little orange cupcake inside. "Great work," she cheered. When the room was clean again, Ellie bent over it and gave Super Fluffy a thank you pat. "You make a good partner, you know that?" "I bet you do, since you're so smart." She held out the soccer ball prize. "This is for you." Super Fluffy leaped into the air happily. He grabbed the ball out of Ellie's hand and tossed it back and forth. Ellie grinned while he played. She was glad to have Super Fluffy's company. Sure, he could make mistakes, but he was still a super companion. He'd put a smile on Ellie's frowny face day, and with him to play with, tomorrow was sure to be all smiles too. And that is the end of part 1 of Ellie Ultra and Super Fluffy to the rescue. We will be back on Thursday for the conclusion. See you later. Bye.